I want you to describe what happened on November 20th, 1944 to the Mississinewa. But we have one person here who is the only person here who is a witness to it, and that's Windsong Blake. And I want to introduce him and spotlight him because his story is so interesting in so many ways. I would hope that he'll, like this experience enough to want to come back. Windsong, I'm going to share a picture of you when you were in the Navy. How old were you here?
17.
You were 7 years old. You grew up in Massachusetts. Was it New Bedford?
Yes. Yeah.
And what made you want to join the Navy?
Well, I was in a house full of kids. I had about 5 other brothers and sisters in right after the Depression, which was very tough during them days. I was doing all kinds of little work all over the place, cutting fish and washing cars and everything, and I had to change diapers and put clothes out on the line and all that kind of stuff. And I wanted to be a man and get out of here, and join the Navy. See, so I went downtown and got a piece of paper, and the guy said, "Well, you're not old enough. Bring it home." And I did, and my father signed it, and off I went. And that was it. But I don't know what was the worst, going in the Navy or staying home.
And I'm so interested in your story for so many reasons, Windsong, but one of them is your heritage, your background. You're Cape Verdean. Cape Verde is Portuguese owned islands off the coast of Africa, I believe. You're also Wampanoag, Native American. And so when you joined the Navy, did you have to, did you join, race? I should remind people it was a segregated Navy. Whites and blacks did not serve together. There was racial discrimination was rampant. Did you serve as white or non-white?
Non-white.
Non-white.
Well, I didn't have a choice. Actually, well, I had a choice, but the choice didn't seem right. I asked the guy. The guy said, "What nationality are you?" And I told him I was Indian and Portuguese, Cape Verdean. And he said, "We don't know nothing about that. You're either black or white."
Oh, gosh. Sorry to laugh, but oh, my gosh.
That's it. So
that's it.
I chose the black because I wasn't white. And I don't know, I had some black in me, I guess, way back. But I grew up in a black and Cape Verdean area of New Bedford. And not in the north end of New Bedford was Polish and Irish and all of that. I never went up in that area much. So where I hung around with was mostly black and Cape Verdean Portuguese people. So I figured I better stay there. But I was treated awful.
Oh.
Let me tell you, I was treated awful. I went down to Bainbridge, Maryland for boot camp. And there was all white guys that were running the show, And boy, they picked on us, black, supposedly black now. They picked on us like you wouldn't believe. Wake us up in the middle of the night and make us run all around the place with our sea bags on our head. They treated us really bad. And when I went in on the ship, it wasn't much different until I started knowing more people. But it wasn't a very good time because of the treatment. We run around the camp. We went around the camp with wooden rifles. They didn't even trust us with real rifles like the other Navy guys. They didn't trust us. I don't know why, but that was it. So it wasn't that great the whole time in the Navy,
Did it, Windsong, sorry to interrupt you, but did it get any better when you were assigned to a ship?
It got a little better, yeah, because now I'm with other people and so forth, and I got to know a few. But like I said, I hardly knew a whole lot of the men on that ship. I knew 2 or 3 of them, and a couple of the black guys were friends of mine. this one guy, yeah, this one guy here, if you can see a picture of him.
Oh, yes, sure.
Yeah, he was my buddy, black guy. And Lloyd, his name was Lloyd Bryant. He was on the ship with me. And I tried to get a hold of him later, but I never did, never could. And McCoy, this the guy here with his wife, no, the guy with his, yeah, this guy, that guy. And this guy here was a good friend of mine too. Yeah, his name was Rex Lamb. Rex Lamb. And he was down in the laundry room. See, where I used to be bringing clothes and stuff down there, and we'd do a lot of talking. And when I got home, we talked with one another on the phone and sent pictures. I got pictures of his wife and his kids, but he passed away 3 years ago. Oh. And that was that. The poor guy, he ended up with a bad lungs and he was on an air oxygen tank and all of that. Yeah.
Windsong, your ship was the USS Muscoma, which was the same kind of ship as the USS Mississinewa, which was an oiler. Can you explain to people what an oiler was?
Yeah, well, we was part of the Fifth Fleet, Admiral Halsey there, and we would get filled up and follow the fleet around, you know, and supply all the ships with oil and gas and a whole lot of other stuff, you know, mail, everything, anything we could carry, and so we followed the Navy around wherever they. I mean the Fifth Fleet, the fleet. We no matter where they went, we had to supply them with gas and oil, especially the aircraft carriers use a lot of gas. You know, for those planes, they were constantly attacking all the little islands down there, Ulithi, Guam, all the Philippines, and all those islands were being attacked all the time. And so there was one ship, I don't know what the name of it was, but he kept worrying about running out of gas all the time. So that guy was up alongside of us every time we went around. You know.
And that, you know, and I have to say, I'll let people should know I'm a historian, and when I would teach a class on World War II, I would often say that the U.S.'s biggest advantage in World War II was also its biggest logistical challenge, and that was that the war wasn't being fought here in the lower 48, which meant that all the men, all the equipment, all the weapons had to be, you know, sent to the four corners of the earth. And that, for the Navy, that meant a lot of fuel for a lot of ships. So those oilers, although they weren't, you know, the glamorous battleships or carriers, they were absolutely essential to the war effort. If the oilers weren't there, those ships were not sailing. Simple as that.
Where are they going to go without gas and oil? Yeah.
Where are they going to go without gas and oil? And it also made those oilers targets for the Japanese. They knew that if
they always had a little sub near us, not too far. You could see the sub chaser at a distance, you know, around you when you looked, and you felt good when you seen that destroyer or something around you, you know, just making sure there was no subs too close or something. Right. Especially in that storm, you know, that typhoon. You know, the typhoon that took over 700 men, I think. The typhoon, the worst typhoon in naval history. I was in that, and almost got blown into Luzon. We lost power on the ship. That ship, that Muscoma, God bless it though, it kept running. The motor kept running. It stopped running, and we were always floundering around on that, trying to get the motor to get going again. And so they'd leave a little destroyer hanging around until we got it going. and then catch up with the fleet again. But that
Right.
typhoon was the worst, other than the Mississinewa. That was awful.
Oh, meantime, I'm going to ask Windsong to do something that might not be easy for him. And that is if he could tell us what he saw on November 20th, 1944 at Ulithi when the USS Mississinewa was attacked.
Well, it started when I was down in the kitchen. We were getting coffee and stuff ready for breakfast, and all of a sudden the ship shook, and I heard the big explosion, and so all of us ran up topside, and there was the Mississinewa blowing up, and all the guys jumping off the ship, and a lot of them were already in the water, and the water was on fire. And there was fire pieces of the fire and stuff coming down on even on our ship like rain, and we were so close. And you see the poor men all in the water, and the water was on fire. The oil was on fire, and there were ships all around trying to pick them up. You know, there was even a little plane that came by and landed. And picked up a few guys, and we lowered a couple of the boats we had, and went down and picked up, I don't know, I think 20 something men that were in the water. We pulled them out, and including Mike's father, we pulled him out. And I was watching all that, and those guys were, boy, we were feeling awful that we couldn't, go down and help them ourselves, yourself. It was terrible, and the smoke was hard to take, and then the submarines, the destroyers. The destroyer escorts were chasing the submarines and dropping their cans of explosives, and the poor guys must have been in shock in the water, listening, hearing those explosions that must have deafened their ears, and it deafened us up above, and they were all over around dropping them cans of explosion. And I even seen one of the destroyers chase a submarine up on the beach of a small island nearby. I could just about see it, but I seen it. And they chased it and shot at it, and I guess they blew it up or something. I don't know what happened after, but it was a terrible ordeal. We had a hard time with that. A long time after that, looking at the terrible thing.